Hello and welcome to the webinar today on the FDOT State Kit, Civil 3D, and AutoCAD tips and tricks. I'm going to be going over our 2015 MR2 candidate State Kit and got a few tips to show you in 2016. If you'll notice down in the handout section there is a PDF to download. That's what I will be 95% going through today. So if you want to follow along, download that and open it up, or wait till after the webinar if you want to review it. Now, if you're looking at the book, I've added a few things on the fly here. So I'm going to cover these before I get to number one in the book. But we're going to go in order. We're going to have FDOT Civil 3D State Kit tips first, Civil 3D tips second, and AutoCAD tips last. All right, the first tip involves the Layer Properties Manager. Everybody in today's world has two monitors, and they normally open up the Layer Properties Manager and move it to the other monitor. But with our projects and the number of drawing files that you could have open at one time, right now I have two, but I'm sure throughout the day you have many, many more. And if you look here on the bottom, I have 1,753 layers in this file, which is pretty low. But if you have references into your file, all those layers add up. And the tip is this: if you leave your layer property open and switch between drawings, the Layer Property Manager has to read and cycle through all those layers. So if you have a large file with a lot of layers and you keep going back and forth, close your Layer Property Manager and then cycle through your drawing files. That'll speed up a lot of time. And also in the Layer Properties Manager, we have layer filters all set up for you. These mimic the DWG name that you would have. So for instance, the DSGN signing pavement marking layer filter. Out of 1,753 layers, I have 179 that are available, and these match what's in the master standard spreadsheet, and we have a filter for each one. So if you are not using these, use these to speed up your day. You can also just go to all, and of course you'll see all of them labeled. All right, so that's good for layers. QSelect is a way to build a selection query for editing or whatever you want to do. So let me type in QSelect, and the dialog box comes up, and it gives me some options here. So I'm going to do something real simple here, just for time. I'm going to build a selection set for the color blue. So you have your properties that you can choose from, your operator. So in this case, it's going to be equal. I can change the color, and it, likewise for layer, line type, and whatnot. So I hit OK. You see everything that's blue in the file highlights, and from here I could delete it, move it, or type in group and group those together. This is typically if you get a survey file and it's just all discombobulated with different colors and different layers. Everything's on a different layer, it's a different color. You could isolate by layer, but you're not going to get everything. So this is a good method to build a query. All right, so now we go to the book. And number one is the State Kit MR1 with the Subassembly Studio runtime error message. It's not really an error message. It is a notification that some of the subassemblies need the Subassembly Studio runtime to run, and that will be less and less, and will be going away probably in the 2016 release that we're doing in January. But we're also releasing a MR2 2015, and you may still run into the error. But the most important document in that in our build is our installation guide. Typically, you'd read it before you install it, but we're going to be adding a more robust troubleshooting and frequently, issues section. So if you have the State Kit running, the easiest way to get to that, if you can go to Links and Contacts on our FDOT ribbon, and there is a Explore FDOT 2015, that's your install directory, takes you right to that, and here's our installation guide. And we're going to be adding a lot more information here. So here's a good way to get to it. If you have a problem or an issue, go through this first. You can solve your problem. If you can't, obviously, give us a call and we'll try to help you through it. So number 2, Super Audit, which is on the FDOT ribbon. Everybody's familiar with the audit command. You type in audit, and on the command line, do you want to fix errors, yes or no? You typically type in Y for yes. But with Super Audit, you click on it. You don't have to enter in yes or no, because if you're auditing, you automatically want to fix all your errors anyway. But what it also does is it deletes registered applications. In here, I didn't have any. Yeah, I did. What it does, all the registered applications are deleted and removed from the file. You may have a stray 1 or 2 that's in your file. After you close, save your file, and reopen it, any registered applications that the file needs or calls on is reloaded. So it's not like you're purging them out and never going to see them again. If it's used in the file, it will be brought back. But there are times where some of the applications, so that's a good way to do that. All right, number 3 are subassembly help files. On the palette, for those that are not familiar with our subassemblies, we have a palette called FDOT Subassemblies, and we have numerous subassemblies that you can use in your design to be used in conjunction with out-of-the-box Civil 3D assemblies. But if you right-click on an assembly, there's a help section, and this loads up our special help section on the subassembly. It will help you go over all the parameters that the assembly has, what it can target, what it can't target, the insertion points, the coding diagrams, the standard details, reference where it comes from. For example, here's the coding diagram, and up top we should have, each assembly should have the design standard index number that it refers to, so you can go quickly to the index to look at. And once you have one open, here are the others. Every one of them has their own help file. So if you're doing some modeling, you get stuck and you have a lot of questions, these documents can probably bail you out and keep you modeling away. All right, number 4, Quick Check, QC Quick Check, another application on our ribbon. If I select it, it reads the file and it tells me what errors I have in my file. In this instance here, I have a lot of stray lines and whatnot in here for this webinar. I can double-click on an error. As you can see in the background, it did highlight that. I can either delete that or change it to the proper layer. You can also right-click and do a zoom to. So double-click or right-click. If you double-click, you have to do it here where the little arrow is. Over here, it doesn't really do anything. All right, and one other tip with the QC check, if you need to make an exception. So it would pass the QC. Here's how you get to that. Right-click, create exception, give it a name and a description and why you're doing that, and then when you run QC check, it will pass. It will not catch that as an error. And there are a limited number of exceptions I think you can make in a file. All right, so number 5, lane striping. All right, here I have a PT and I have some striping here. And as you can see, it doesn't look right because the striping is supposed to, it's a 1030 skip. There is a tip here to fix this. If you just select it, right click, go to properties. It has to do with the line type generation. If right now it's off. If I cut on enabled, you see how it changes to clean it up. And that's equivalent to the, if you're used to typing it in pedit, line type, on, off. So that's just a fancy way to get to it without having to type it in, but I still type it in. So, all right, number 6. We get this a lot. Opening a DGN file correctly in Civil 3D. Here is what you need to do. Go up to the big A, Civil 3D, click it, go down to Open, Open DGN. I happen to have a DGN here. Click Open, and the Import DGN Settings dialog box comes up, and we have a FDOT import mapping file that will take all the levels and convert them to the exact layer name. So all the standards that are in, as far as graphically in the DGN, will come across into the DWG, and you can attach it as an underlay. You can also, if I click import into current drawing, it will bring it into the current open drawing, or if not, it will create a separate unnamed DWG that you can then save. But I recommend opening a DGN straight out of MicroStation, not having someone save it as a DWG in MicroStation for you to open up, because you want to go through the import map settings. Number 7, convert ellipses to arcs. All right, this one's a little tricky because it doesn't work. The conditions have to be just right for it to work. And it's on our tools, on our ribbon, pull down, convert ellipses to arcs. And one of the caveats in using this is the axis length has to be the same to convert it. So I have an example here of like a curb return or a bullet nose on a traffic separator. If I select it, you can see on the command line 1 found. Just hit enter, and it turns it from this, which is an ellipse, it looks like a circle, to just a regular arc. Now the situations where it will not work is where I have this, like on this traffic arrow. To me that looks like an ellipse, to everybody else it does too, but I cannot convert that to an arc using this little tool because the axis plane is not the same as that one. But typically you're going to be wanting to convert curb returns and whatnot that has even radius, so should work. All right, number 8, quick clips. For those that are new to our quick clip initiative that we started, it is a very good and easy way to get to our videos, help videos. So if I hover over FDOT signs, you see our little tooltip, you see hit F1 for help. If I hit F1, it goes to one of our help documents, and it's just going to contain a summary of what the tool does, but it also has a link to quick clips. And you click on it, takes you to our quick clip page, and whatever tool that you highlighted and hit F1, it will highlight on the page. So in this case, it's FDOT signs. So if I click on it, let me pause it, we have videos that have chapters in them that you can easily browse to. Say if you just want to know in the FDOT Signs application, how do I edit an already placed assembly, just click on it. Takes you right to that section, and you can watch it from there. And as you can see, it will be turning from black to blue soon. All right, that's the quick clips. There's also a YouTube channel that we started, Civil 3D, an FDOT Civil 3D YouTube channel. And we can get to that from you can either Google it to go to the page, or from the State Kit, go to FDOT Autodesk Resources, and there's a link here to our YouTube channel. And we already have a good number of videos for you, and these are the applications and tools that are on our ribbon or in our installation folder. And some of them range from less than a minute to 20 minutes, but they are indexed with chapters, so you can easily browse through them and get the pertinent data that you want to watch. We also have subscribed to Jeff Bartle's channel, and he did some Autodesk training down in District 4 and District 6, and he created a 11-part section of modeling advanced intersection. This is our FDOT workflow here. So if you can get to our YouTube channel, you can go and watch all of Jeff Bartle's training videos. So you can use our YouTube channel to get to even more Civil 3D content, more videos, and for instance here, it's extended FDOT workflow. Okay, let's see, number 9, Entity Manager. Everybody uses Entity Manager to draw in objects, place objects with X data on it, which is the pay item information. But there's a new tool that has been added to Entity Manager called Match Properties, which is really great. It's taking the match properties that Civil 3D uses and applying it to the X data that's within Entity Manager. So, for instance, I have line work drawn in my file, and I could go and I could browse to it here, and I could go append to the objects, or I can simply go up here to Match Properties, select left-click on the source, left-click on the target, hit Enter. Converts it to the layer, the line type, and it's got the X data on it. So that is, I think, going to be a good time saver. It gets you closer to how you would, work with Civil 3D and AutoCAD throughout the day in your workflow. Okay, number 10, the favorites and selected list. Now, if you work with certain categories over and over again, you can save them to a favorites list. So like for cable above ground, right click on it, select it, right click, add to favorites, and keep filling that in. And down here you have a favorites pull down, and these are some of my other favorites. And what's going to happen is it will, if I click on it, it's just going to go straight to that category. So from here you could draw your lines, polylines, or append, or whatnot. So it's not going to invoke any drawing commands. It's going to take you straight to the category. And for selected list, works as similar. Select your items, add to selected. Now you would use this option if you have multiple pay items to assign to one object. So you would build your list here, and when you're ready to append multiple items to one object, such as a block, typically, you go ahead and select them, and at that point select the append, and it would append all that X data to the object. And a lot of these tips you can find in the actual handouts of the applications, but this is just an overview. It's a fun overview. Okay, number 11, this was popular. I added this one in here, which is rotating text to match the object. Here I have mText. Both of these are actually mText. One's rotated correctly. Now the one I want rotated like that. So if I select the text, right-click, go to Properties, and I look at the rotation, it just has a 0, doesn't have any other input I can put in there other than a number. But if I highlight it, a little calculator appears. Click on the calculator, and the Quick Calc comes up. And from here, we can add some geometry points to help us in this rotation, if you don't know the rotation, which in this case I do not. Up top, we have angle of line defined by 2 points. So let me select it. I can have my O snaps on, but here I'm just going to click the end point of both, hit apply, and the text rotates. That's very good. And for Civil 3D labels, it's a little different. Inside the style, it has a match to orient to view, which does the same thing. So if I had my sheets down here, it would rotate exactly as you would expect it. Right reading 90. Okay, number 12, palette transparency. Let me open up Entity Manager again. All right, so this works great here because I only have one monitor. All right, so I want to see behind my palette because I'm looking and I don't want to have to close this to look underneath it. You can right-click on the name here, has a transparency option. Let me select it, and I can bring it down. We bring it down to 43%, hit OK. Now, if I remain focused on Entity Manager, it's opaque. If I get off of it, I can see behind it. I can see my data. You can control how much or how little you can see. I guess how much you can stand not to see of the dialog box. But in a monitor constricted workspace, this would be great. So and that's right click, transparency, change it back to solid. Number 13, section editor tips. Let me go over to, I have a corridor loaded here. It's not much of one, it's a milling and overlay. But I'm going to show you 2 tips at once right here. Now if I select the corridor, I just selected the border, and the contextual menu comes up, and I can open section editor. And when I open section editor, it's going to open it up at the beginning station of your corridor. But if you want to open up section editor at a pre-designated station, select your link, which is going to be the white lines running across. So let's say I want to go a little bit before station 1, or right after station 162. I select the link, click on section editor, and I'm at that station 162 plus 25. Now the other tip is, I'm sure you run across this, zooming in and out. Oh my goodness, the grid is immense. But get to a spot that you like, and you can pull down zoom to extents and click on zoom to an offset and elevation. Click on it. Now it will remain exactly there, and I can query through my corridor. So if I zoom out by accident and I hit next, it'll automatically zoom back into that locked point. Okay, let me close the section editor. And what you don't want to do, you don't want to exit out of your drawing file with section editor open. It does funny things. So make sure you close your section editor before you end your session. All right, number 14, just key in commands here. Listing available and used point numbers, mostly for surveyors. You have your point groups. You just want a quick list of available point numbers. All you do is type in list available point numbers, and in this case I have no points in here, so I have infinity available. And list used point numbers behaves the same way. Type it in, tells you the groups that you have number-wise. So you can, if you need to assign a point number in a very busy drawing, that's the easiest way to pick a available point number. Match properties, the regular match properties. If you don't know, there are settings that you can use in it. So if I select a target, and on the command line, I can type S for settings, and this drives that tool, and by default, everything is selected. You know, that's why it works so well. But you can control what properties get matched, and a very good tip to know with match properties that it works beyond graphical entities. It works with Civil 3D objects. You can match properties with alignments, surfaces, profile views, just to name a few. So don't be limited to graphical entities. Try match properties on your Civil 3D objects. Okay, number 16. Now this was introduced in 2016, and it is, let me switch back over here. I'm not going to close anything, but the close all other command. So if I typed in close all other, what that will do, let's say I had 10 files open, and I got my current file here, and I don't want to close it, but I want everything else to close. You would invoke this command, close all other, which will close all but the current file. Of course, it will ask you if you want to save or not, so don't worry about deleting anything or losing any data. But that's another take on how to quickly close your drawing files. All right, number 17, animated help. You know, most people forget that this is in Civil 3D, and when they get reminded, it's, wow, I could use that. So let's go back to that first one I showed y'all, the QSelect. Let's say I don't know where QSelect is. I forgot what to type in, and I want to invoke it from the ribbon. You go to F1, do a search, QSelect. All right, here. There's an option on the help. It says to find. So I'm going to move this down, select find, and Civil 3D will automatically change the ribbon and give me a little arrow telling me where that command is. Oddly enough, it's in the survey part, which is where it's real handy to use. If you can't find the tool, go to help, type it in, and use the find option. Okay, number 18, creating a custom subassembly palette. All right, for those that are actively modeling and using a combination of our FDOT subassemblies and Civil 3D out-of-the-box assemblies, with the number of conditional assemblies that you can put together, string together, could be a little cumbersome to recreate that on each of your projects. So there is a way to, once you have a conditional built that you don't want to lose, that you want to reuse, that's not available right now. You can come over to the palette, you can right-click on one of the tabs, select New Palette. Let me just give it a name. All right, and now I can drag and drop this into the palette. Now, it's not a typical drag and drop, it's a little different. So I'm going to left-click on the insertion point, and then clicking anything right now, I'm going to come back over to the green line, left-click, hold it down. As you can see that the marker is now following me, and dragging it over to the palette, I let go, and now I have my custom assembly. You can give it a name, and the name will be over here. So you can make your custom palettes with frequently used conditional assemblies. That'll speed you up. All right, number 19, working with styles. Everybody loves styles. So let me go to my settings tab. I'll use the same one that's in the book here, and FDOT railing. All right, these styles, each style could be used in multiple styles. And you may want to know, well, how many times is this particular style used? How many times is it called for? And right off the bat, you see a little yellow triangle here. That means that that style is in use either by a command or another style. But if I select it and right-click and select Find References, it tells me where each style is being used. So I have some code set styles that are calling for FDOT railing. I have 3 subassemblies that are calling for it. So you can browse to get straight to it if you want to, but this is a handy way to find out where you need to edit, change. If you modify one style, you're going to have to push it out. All right. A quicker way to do that is, let's say you create a style, and I've got 5 styles that I've got to replace it with. You can do a replace with. So I would pull down and pick my new style, and this would replace that other style. So it's an easy way to push a modified style out to your drawing file. All right, number 20, Civil 3D objects from XRefs. If you did not know this, you can create Civil 3D objects from an XRef. For example, if I want to create an alignment from object on the command line, everybody says right-click, and that's true, right-click for everything, but sometimes that command line will throw you a bone. And in this case, it says select the object that you want to turn into an alignment, or XRef. So if I hit X, enter, now all my individual entities on the XRef are highlighted. So keep that in mind if you want to make an alignment straight from an XRef without having to go to the source file. Number 21, quick corridor region selection. Okay, there is a setting. It's called selection effect. If I hit enter, I got mine set at 0. If you don't have yours set at 0, I recommend doing so, because here's what it does. If I select this corridor, the contextual ribbon comes up top, edit targets. Now if I select edit targets with selection effect set at 1, it's just going to highlight everything as 1. Okay, even if I have many regions with many targets, which is what we deal with. We deal with a lot of regions with a lot of targets. Now this one doesn't have regions in it, but what would happen if I go up to edit targets with selection effect at 0, it would individually highlight each region along your corridor that you can just click and edit, go straight to edit targets within that region, which, as you know, how full that dialog box can get in a corridor properties with all the regions. So selection effect set to 0. Number 22, the Old Earthwork Interface. A lot of times, this comes from Land Desktop, the Earthwork Interface was just plain simple, right? And a lot of times they leave the functionality in Civil 3D. You just have to remember the command to type in. So if I type in report surface volume, my old friend comes up, and if you've used Land Desktop before, this looks mighty familiar to you. It's a quick and very easy way to get a earthwork comparison. Not that the new method is any worse. It's good too, but sometimes you just want that old friend back. All right, number 23, quick surface from GIS data. In case you did not know this, type in a command, create surface from GIS data. There we go. Got a dialog box comes up. Now, what this does is going to create a regular Civil 3D surface. And go from the name, go to next, and here's the data that you can pull from to create your surface. You can either do an ARC, SDE, Oracle, or a shapefile. And if you want an actual Civil 3D surface, you go through the steps here and create it from your GIS data, and you're off on your merry way doing your design. Number 24, sample lines. Now this typically appeals to drainage sample lines where they're twisted and turned and everything discombobulated. But if you want to take a sample line and make it orthogonal again, just select on it, right click, make orthogonal, straightens back out. And from here it behaves just like it was put in here. You can move it, you can rebend it, whatever you want to do with it. Number 25, Geolocation Maps. If I'm signed in to 360, this gets you access to the live Bing maps. And if your project is in a coordinate zone, now this one is not technically, but for time, I'm just going to cut it on and show you what it does. There is a geolocation ribbon that has options on it. You can cut map to aerial, which I'll do right here. It's not going to match up. But you can see it's pulling live aerial data. And I can switch it to map road, which is just Bing Maps. And I can do a hybrid, which is both. And I can also capture area. I can capture a viewport, whatever you need if you want to use it in your design file. And you can also print these as part of your project. So if you're not using these, please use them. This is pretty neat. All right, number 26. We're going into the end here. AutoCAD tips. So let me go back over to 2016. All right, I know everybody's excited to get 2016 State Kit in January. I know I'm excited to get it too. So we're all cheering that on. So dimensions, smart dimensions. On the annotate, if I select the dimensions, 2016 has a previewer. So I'm just hovering, I'm just moving my mouse around on objects. Gives you a preview of your dimension, what it's going to look like, you know, whatever side you want it on. So if I select it, put it out there, and of course you can continue, and it will just keep going and going and going. So dimensioning in 2016 is a lot faster. All right, one of the neat things I added was the revision cloud. Revision of the revision cloud. Say that fast. That is, if I select revision cloud and I look at the command line, it gives me a bunch of options. I can hit M for modify. It asks me to select the cloud, so I'm going to select here, and I can start drawing, and I'm not pressing O snap, it's just automatic. It's going to snap to the vertex of your revision cloud. So if I select here, all of a sudden the outside is highlighted. It automatically knows I want to erase one side, so I can select that, erase it. Do I want to reverse direction? No. Poof. There's my revised revision cloud. Okay. Of course, we don't make mistakes. We don't need to, revise or anything here. Editing block attributes. Now, everybody knows if there's a block, it's got an attribute in it. If I double click it, the enhanced attribute editor opens up so you can make your changes. But there's another simple way to make changes. Hold your control key down. Double click on the attribute. It highlights. I can just type it in direct, hit enter, done. That one's worth money there, so use that one wisely. All right, number 30, offset to current layer. I added some more, that's why the numbers are off. But in this case, my current layer, let me change my current layer back. Pavement asphalt. Okay. All right, so I have here, we'll say this is curb and gutter, which it is. Here's the curb face. Here's the curb back. They're each on 2 layers. Curb and gutter itself is on 3 separate layers. So If I want to offset that, typically you offset it's going to retain the layer that you're offsetting, the target equals the source. But in this case, I've changed my layer to what I want it to be. So if I invoke the offset command, and without doing anything right now, the command line again, it gives me a through, erase, or layer. So if I hit L for layer, it gives me options. Do you want the current layer, or do you want the source layer? So in this case, I want the current layer. So at this point, you enter in your distance, which will be 2 feet. I'm going to select the curve face and offset it. And it's on the pavement asphalt layer. It's all correct, good to go. So remember that one. That's always like using that one. Number 31, the calculator option. In case you need to use a calculator in reverse Polish notation format, just type in RPN Calc. The requested calculator appears and you can calculate to your heart's content. And here is the last one, number 32, bulk by layer changes. We go through this a lot. Maybe this will help you in advance and help you help others, which is you get a file, everything, here we go, is all discombobulated again. So on different layers, line type, color, but as FDOT, our workflow is, everything is by layer. So in that instance, under Home, go to pull down and modify. Here is set to by layer. Just invoke that, window the entire screen, and everything will be assigned by layer, and it will assume the properties, line type, color, and even has settings that you can change. So this concludes this webinar.